All right, back here on CBS Sports HQ, conference strength, it is always a hot topic for debate in college football, right? And now in a 12-team CFP, strength of schedule is always something that goes into that conversation as to whether a particular team should make the CFP when we're looking at the record and the teams they had to go through to get there, right? And we're going to go through CBS Sports' college football conference power rankings and see how each conference stacks up to one another heading into 2025. Chip, great to see you, my friend. We're starting at the top here at number 1. Don't tell Danny Cannell, but the SEC is here, right here, coming in at number 1. How do you feel about the SEC? Do you agree with that, with these rankings here, as the SEC coming in as the top conference here in college football, according to CBS Sports?
Yes, I think that right now is a time where the SEC definitely has a claim, Jacqueline. I think last year was a down year for the SEC, and we saw that reflected as they only got 3 teams into the college football playoff while the Big Ten got 4. But when I'm looking across the national landscape of college football, what I'm seeing are a lot of programs in the Big Ten that are in a reload mode, while the SEC has groups that are gearing up for a run at a national championship. Obviously, that starts with preseason number 1. Texas. Obviously, that includes looking at a Georgia, at an Alabama, and then that very, very competitive group that, of course, you know very well, Jacqueline, where you've got an LSU, South Carolina, Florida, Oklahoma. You know, these are some of the teams that recruit at the highest level. These are some of the teams that spend and invest at the highest level. There's just not a way for all of them to win championship trophies, but the way that the pace is set by those programs at the top means that everyone has to keep up. It's why the SEC has the most 4 stars and 5 stars coming out of high school. It's why the SEC routinely is the conference that has the most players picked in the NFL draft. So last year was a down year. Big Ten had a decent argument to be able to say that they were number 1. But as I look at these rosters right now, Jacqueline, going into 2025, I think there is no question in my eyes the SEC is at number 1.
Yeah, and if we use the, okay, the Big Ten has had the last 2 national championships, but it's hard, though, because when the SEC is just beating up on one another, sometimes we're seeing less SEC teams that are making it in the CFP, right? So you said the Big Ten has an argument, or you could hear it out for number 1, but they are coming in at number 2. And if we look at the last 2 national champions, it is Michigan, it is Ohio State. So Chip, say Ohio State or Oregon or, I don't know, Michigan wins it again. That's kind of a long shot, but would the Big Ten then have the argument to be a surefire number 1 conference here over the SEC?
If they've got the trophies, then they can certainly make that argument. That is how the SEC grew to the stature we know today with those, 7 straight national championships back in the BCS days. To me, a lot of this is going to hinge on what we get from Penn State and Oregon, because like I mentioned, I think the Michigan Wolverines are in a reload mode. I think that you are looking at a Michigan State that has come nowhere close to the ceiling that it got under Mark D'Antonio, and so that's where they need Oregon after losing all those draft picks, program record NFL draft picks. Oregon needs to be ready to go. But if it is Penn State to be able to match what Michigan and Ohio State have done in each of the last 2 years, now you're going to start taking the Big Ten more seriously. And the one thread here, Jacqueline, if you notice about the SEC and the Big Ten, the schools that they brought in last year for Texas and Oklahoma for the SEC, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, made both of those so much better. On the football side, it has led to the Super 2. It might be the Power 4 officially, but it's the Super 2 because in this recent wave of conference realignment, the SEC and the Big Ten added plus value football programs.
Yeah, during the SEC and Big Ten media days, I have to sit there and really count out just how many teams we're dealing with over the course of like 4 days because there's so many. To your point, also, I'm sorry about Penn State that I left you out of the hypothetical national championship intro to you. That was a big miss on my part. All right, coming in at number 3, of course, it's either the Big 12, it's the ACC. It is the Big 12 here. Do you give them the slight nod over the ACC? Do you agree with that?
It is so difficult because What the Big 12 does not have is an absolute anchor weighing them down, because in the ACC, you've got some programs that are below the average level, not just for power conferences, but all of FBS. But look at what we have here from the Big 12. 4 teams all inside the top 25. The Big 12 also has number 26, 27, and 28 in terms of other receiving votes just outside the top 25. Is there a top 10 team? No, there is not. The ACC has 2 of those. So how do you look at having a great B-plus collection of teams, but not having any A's? And are those A's offset by having a couple F's or D minuses? That's where Brett Yormark beats the table and says the Big 12 is the most competitive league in all of college football, because there are so many healthy, surging programs who are all just, you talk about beating up on each other. We had a 4-way tie. 4 teams tied for first place in the Big 12 standings last year, but they all had 2 conference losses. And so I understand giving the Big 12 the nod over the ACC, because the Big 12 has a great, and I mean great, collection of very good teams. Not top 10 teams, but very good teams. And they've got no teams, not a single one, who I think is dragging the Big 12 down.
Yeah, we keep saying it. If you like parity, make sure you check out all the Big 12 matchups. And, of course, it feels like it's one of the only conferences that is wide open all across the board, to your point. All right, that brings us to number 4 here, which is the ACC. And it seems like, Chip, you align with that, with the ACC coming in, of course, behind the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12.
Yeah, and it's because they aren't getting some help. Clemson, and I know that Miami's a 10 on there and SMU's a 16, but this is a little bit of Clemson and the 16 dwarfs is what we've got right here. We need Miami to be able to capture the promise that really hasn't been realized since they joined the league. Hello, where is Florida State listed right here? Where is Virginia Tech? Where are these programs that were expected to be able to make the ACC a premier football conference? Like, maybe we will see the ACC get a boost from Bill Belichick joining the North Carolina football program. If he can make the Tar Heels a real factor nationally, not just a television draw that NFL fans tune in for, well, now we're going to start talking about the ACC not just as being the 3rd best, getting ahead of the Big 12, but maybe even starting to close that gap with the SEC and the Big 10. But until Clemson has more help in terms of programs that are performing, close to peak efficiency, again, looking at you, Miami, looking at you, Florida State, looking at you, North Carolina, your Virginia Tech, there are opportunities for the ACC to grow. Clemson is very healthy, but the rest of the league's football picture, I think, can definitely be improved.
Yeah, it's not that long ago that we saw FSU and Jordan Travis get, whatever your argument is, they got left out of the CFP. That whole 2-win season makes us forget about that. But that was only 2 seasons ago, right? So the FSU, or at the Florida State University, you can help. All right, Chip. Group of 6 conferences in the power rankings. We're looking at the American, the Sun Belt, Mountain West, CUSA, the MAC, the Pac-12. Which one of these do you want to dive into as maybe underrated?
I'm going to go with the Mountain West. I think the Mountain West has a great argument for the top spot, and I would certainly not slot them 3rd. Clearly, you're going to be looking at Boise State as the one that's really the flag bearer, right? Like, they are out there. They are out front. Boise State not only making it to the college football playoff, but getting a top 4 seed 1 year ago. And what a great season they had with Ashton Genty as the superstar. Boise State probably is going to be the most talented team again, but I really, really like the coaching hires. Your guy, Jacqueline, Dan Mullen, taking over at UNLV. Ken Niumatalolu, the former Navy head coach, is now at San Jose State. And Fresno State, a program that has won conference championships and recently saw success with Kalen DeBoer as the head coach. They hired a coach by the name of Matt Entz. He used to be at North Dakota State competing for FCS national championships. So this ranking and this rating of the Mountain West as being 3rd among those group of 6 conferences seems to indicate that they have like an ACC problem on their hands with Boise and everybody else. But I think what we have seen, thanks to good coaching hires, is for some of those other programs in the league to really start to cut into that lead and make the entire conference much more respectable and competitive in 2025.
Yeah, Chip, we'll see if my guy can go recruit there at UNLV. It'll be a little challenge for my guy, Dan Mullen, maybe. Chip, we appreciate it going through the College Football Conference Power Rankings. You can hear more from Chip over on the Cover 3 podcast. You can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.